Today, on the Dimes and Shots podcast, we interview my sister, who is currently the pitcher for Texas Southern University. So, thanks for coming on the Dimes and Shots podcast. For just first off, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. Probably the first question I want to ask you is what made softball so special to you? Why was that the sport?
I guess growing up, it was the one that I was able to do with my friends in elementary school, and we were on a team called the Lady Lions, and it was always so fun just coming after school and playing, and we would play against all the other elementary school teams, and we were really good, and I really liked winning, so that was a big part of it. I started collecting a lot of trophies and stuff, and then I just loved it ever since. I started playing select ball and met new people. I also got to go to like really cool places. I remember uh, when I was younger, we went to New Braunfels and we stayed in this like amazing resort. And I also got to go to Panama City Beach. And so it just opened up a lot of opportunities. And eventually I was able to get a scholarship as well. So I guess that's probably why it's been special.
That's good. And I'd say, at least this is my opinion. I could be 1,000% wrong, but I believe like whenever we were little, softball wasn't the most mainstream sport for like people to play,
For
and
sure.
you still found a way to like make it really special for you, and that's what I really like to see.
Thank you. Thank you.
And some setbacks you had that elbow injury, right?
I did. I dove back into a base wrong and I broke my elbow. Which,
So, oh,
oh
continue.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, what was it like going through something like that in a sport you loved playing? Was like coming back kind of like scary?
A little bit. Definitely it took me a while to get comfortable with sliding and like diving again just because that's how I'd hurt my elbow. And I remember when I was first coming back, because like an elbow is so important to obviously a softball throw. My throw was very weird and my arm was weak. So it took a lot of practice and kind of just regaining strength. I think what also helped was playing like different sports. Like in middle school, I was able to gain strength in the weight room and also doing like track and cross country. I built endurance and also more strength, which also helped me directly when it came to softball. And eventually my arm got stronger again. And it's been good ever since, thankfully.
That's always good news. I'm really happy about that. And another one was you're right-handed and you've always been right-handed, correct?
Yeah,
But you hit with your left hand or your left side or whatever it is.
I do.
How did you go about changing that? Because to me, I can't even wrap my head around that.
Honestly, it just happened that really big slump hitting from the right side, and we just decided to switch it one day. And when I switched it, I was actually seeing the ball a lot better from the left side, and like from, I guess when you're facing it, it's like the right eye. And I just went through training. Like you start honestly like you're a little kid again. So you start with like the tee, doing little drills. Then you work on like the stance, and it's just a progression. And eventually, I just got more comfortable with it, and now I'm so much more comfortable with it that if someone asks me to swing from the right side, it feels so weird, like the left. And I think over time, you just build it and the strength. So that's how I did
That's commendable. I couldn't even comprehend doing that.
it. Thank you.
And then whenever you got to high school, you were a freshman on varsity.
Yes, I was.
Now, bring me to terms that like what kind of like pressure or expectations did like being on varsity as a freshman, and like what was the difference between varsity softball and like select softball?
Wow. So it was honestly a big difference in just the expectations I was held to. I was used to playing with girls my age, maybe a year older, maybe a year younger. And I was playing with 18-year-olds. And at the time, I'm young for my age. So I was 14. And so obviously the size difference was one thing that I noticed. I was having to like double my size. And because I was starting to, I needed to just kind of like grow up a little bit. And honestly, like it was hard, definitely. And I had never really practiced that much, like every day after school, like pitch every day, a lot of hours. And I had to learn how to take care of my body, make sure I was icing. And it was also like a big adjustment to have girls who were older than me relying on me in the pitching circle to do my job. I kind of felt a lot of pressure and a lot of nerves. Thankfully, like as I got older, like sophomore year is a lot better than senior. And that's the competition wise though, from select was probably about the same, but the big difference was just that huge adjustment of becoming a student athlete for the part.
I see what you mean. And did whenever you were a freshman, did like the older players they kind of like took care of you, took you in?
Oh yeah, they were so helpful. I had a few. They would always encourage me and just like tell me like just give me confidence, because that was the main thing that I struggled with being so young, and we were in a good district and having to play a lot of good teams.
That's what's up. That's good to hear. Any rookie hazing? I think that's what they call it.
No, thankfully not. A lot of them were like mentors like me, and they were really good leaders, and I just tried to be more like them and kind of just follow in their lead.
That's lit. And by your senior year, you had received D1 offers. I don't know how many specifically, but you had received a few, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
See, that's commendable on how hard you worked. And you ended up going to Texas Southern University,
Yes, sir.
and you play softball for them currently.
Yes, sir.
So tell me what it's like being a college athlete, and like what's your daily life like?
Oh, it was a big adjustment and a big difference. I thought like becoming a student athlete in high school was a big difference. No, like in college, it's like a whole like college athletes are especially like at the Division 1 level, which is the highest level that you can play at. So my daily life will be the fall. It's a lot of training. So we'll have 5 a.m. workouts Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then we go back home, we shower, we do classes. Since I'm a science major, I normally have a lot of classes. And so I'm in classes from probably, I would say, 10 to 2, 10 to 3. Just kind of depends on my schedule for that semester. And then we actually have practice that starts at 2:45. Drive over to the field, and then we practice until about 5:30 around. And then I get to like settle down and I'll do homework and then it'll be time to go to bed. So it's honestly a very packed schedule. And then during the spring, that's when we have more games. So thankfully, we don't really have as many morning workouts, but we're just traveling for games. We go to Austin, we go to Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas. So we travel a lot, and we miss
All
a
over
lot
the
of
country?
classes. Yeah, which is really tough. Coordinate with professors and teachers about missing tests and making up assignments, and also just making up the lectures. And so it was a really big adjustment. And the biggest adjustment that I had to make was time management skills, for sure. I couldn't really procrastinate anything, because say that like there's a deadline on a Sunday, but we're going out of town that Friday, like I needed to have it done by Thursday at the latest, if not the beginning of the week. And especially it was really hard. Another thing was labs that I would have to make up. Those are like in-person labs, and normally they're like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and I would have to figure out a way to make those up. So it was all about, I would say, time management, and then just communication, honestly. Communicating with your coach, communicating with your professors, and just making sure like you're on top of everything and that everything is going according to plan.
Wow, it's a pretty busy schedule.
Very.
And you touched on it, and this will probably be the last question here. You talked about your coach. I know for a fact that whenever you visited the school, Texas Southern, there was this one coach, I forget his name, but he was there, and he retired recently, didn't he?
Yes, he stepped down.
And what's it like having been recruited by one coach but having to play for another one?
That was another big adjustment because so our current coach now was one of the assistants, and so she knew who I am or knew who I was, but I wasn't really recruited by her at all. But thankfully, she already like my skill set, how I could contribute to the team. So that was helpful. But her coaching style is completely different, and her beliefs were completely different as well. So it was just hard to adjust to that. She's a little bit more serious, and then our old coach would always be cracking jokes. And so it was just like having to like flip the switch between the two and just figuring out like how she works her game plan versus our old coach's game plan. And then the same thing with like practices and stuff. The way that she runs her practices is a little bit different than how he used to run it. And so it just took time. Definitely, I would say the first couple weeks were a lot of adjustment and a lot of just getting used to all the new things that we were doing. But then after, like, I was able to really bond with her, and like I love everything that she does now. So
That's great to hear. And that was the last question. Thank you for coming on the Dimes and Shots podcast. And we do nothing but support you for your next season.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye.